Hey everybody, it's Kim Shivlar. Welcome. Today we are going to talk about what every virtual assistant needs to know about two-factor authentication. So when you go log into something, so think of a website, and you enter your username and your password and you've logged in. That's single factor authentication. It took one piece of information to grant you access. Two factor authentication adds another level of security and makes you jump through one more hoop in order to actually log in. So, for example, if you have your banking set up, and I recommend if you're using online banking, which pretty much everybody is, that you do set it up this way. So if you have it set up where you enter your username and password, and then it sends you a text with a code, and you have to enter that code to prove it's really you, that is two-factor authentication. I highly recommend it, especially for super secure things like bank accounts, because if you're traveling, and particularly if you travel and you were using a login somewhere that wasn't 100% secure, someone grabs that password from you, they still are not going to be able to log in unless they, for example, have your phone and then can get the code. So this happened to me once. I was traveling on business, and all of a sudden I got a code on my phone. This is your authentication code. So I knew that someone actually actively had my username and my password, because it wouldn't have gotten all the way to that authentication if they didn't. But I was able to not have them get in because they didn't have my phone, they didn't have the code. But had it just been username and password, they would have had full access to my bank account. I then, for security purposes, did log in properly, changed my password to make sure that that wasn't out there. Sometimes you can change usernames, sometimes you can't. But that's two-factor authentication, and I do recommend using it at least on your financial institutions where someone could get access to your money. Now, where does this come in as a virtual assistant? If you're using an account where your customer has two-factor authentication set up, then you're going to have to work with them to where they're going to be available to give you the code. So depending on how it's configured, sometimes it's a code that's texted or emailed to you and you have to enter the code. Sometimes it is a link that is emailed to you and you have to click on the link. There is usually a time frame. 10 minutes is about the norm. So if you don't use that code in 10 minutes, it's timed out. You can't use it anymore. You would have to get a new code. Where I see it a lot with clients is with their email marketing systems, their ActiveCampaign, Aweber, this type of thing, where they've set up a two-factor authentication. So your two options really when you're working with a client is either one, they turn off two-factor authentication while they're working with you. They can always turn it back on, or you have to coordinate with them where they are going to be able to give you that code so that you can log in and get the access. I don't recommend that they change it to your email address, because then sometimes you have to go through hoops to get it changed back, and you may have to approve, and that can just get really confusing. It's better to actually turn it off short term, a couple of days while you're working on it, or to, work together so that they can get you the code. But I have seen this happen, and it's a good thing to ask someone. So if you're getting them set up on, I'm going to do this email marketing for you, go ahead and put that on your onboarding list, which are the questions you ask your customer as you're onboarding them, you're bringing them in to work with you. Ask them, do you have two-factor authentication set up? They may not know what that means based on the terminology, but you can explain to them, hey, do you have it set up where you enter your username and password and it logs you right in, or do you have to get a code after that to let me in? And then you will know, you will be able to explain to them what, the situation that you're going to have to coordinate together, that type of thing. For those of you who've watched my training on using a password protector, such as LastPass, where instead of giving someone your password, you can grant them access through the password protector, that does not circumvent the two-factor authentication. What that does is it does the single factor, the first factor, which is the username and password. If you have two-factor authentication set up, it's still going to have that same renewal where you have to get a code to enter that. Now, let me throw one thing in that happens sometimes is a customer may not have true two-factor authentication set up. However, for security purposes, some websites have it set up to where if you're logging in from a different device, right? So yours is going to be a brand new device logging in. They don't recognize it. Could be a different type of browser. Very likely is a different IP address because wherever your internet provider is that you're logging in is going to be a different address than wherever they are because that's linked to the location you're coming in from. So some sites, when they see a new device, will go ahead and force a two-factor authentication. For example, Amazon. Whenever I go to log into my Prime, if I'm traveling and I'm somewhere different and it doesn't recognize my device, it sends me a code via email or via text, and I have to enter that, and I can then choose, remember this device, remember this browser, etc. So that is something else to keep in mind. If you go to log in and you get a warning like that, reach out to your customer. If they happen to be available with their phone, hopefully you can go ahead and get that code and get logged in and set yourself up to be a remembered device. If you can't get a hold of them, you may have to go ahead and email or text them and let them know what's going on and set a time so that they can get the code handed on to you. Sometimes just this is a great place for text to work. Letting someone know, hey, did you just get a code? And they can text that code to you, or they can go ahead and you can set up a time and say, hey, I'm going to do this. You'll get this code, and then they will text it to you. Obviously, whenever we're texting, we want to make sure that we know the name and the phone number we're texting to. Don't be texting codes or calling people and giving codes if you do not know who you're actually talking to, because frankly, that just circumvents the security that you have implemented with this. As always, if you have a question or comment, please leave it either in the comments on the blog post, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can put it in the YouTube comments. Any links and other information are always going to be both in the blog post and the YouTube video description. I'm Kim Shivler. I'll see you next time. Bye.